Hello everyone and welcome to today's flipped lesson. Today we're going to be working on drafting the research paper, and specifically we're going to be working on opening with an anecdote. Now I just want you to take a second and think about how I opened up this flipped lesson. I began by presenting two simple phrases on a slide: drafting the research paper and opening with an anecdote. And that's an okay way to start it off, but it feels a little bit boring. Imagine if instead I opened up the flipped lesson like this. Today we're going to be working on drafting the research paper. Specifically, we're going to open with an anecdote. Now that was a lot more exciting. I can make it even more exciting by then doing this. Drafting the research paper. And blowing up, opening with an anecdote. Now, as you can see, I was able to transform what was once kind of a boring opening to the flipped lesson into a more exciting opening for the flipped lesson by adding a few exciting, fun elements to it. And that is what we're going to be working on today. No, we're not going to be burning things or blowing them up, but instead, we're going to take the beginning of our research papers and we're going to make them really exciting and interesting by adding an anecdote. Now, here's the mini lesson. You can copy this down in your writer's notebook, and if you need a couple extra minutes to write the notes down, you can pause the video anytime you wish. Strong writers begin their research papers with an anecdote that helps to introduce the reader to their topic in an engaging way. To make the anecdote engaging, they use narrative techniques such as figurative language and showing character and setting. So basically what we're doing is we are going to take all the narrative techniques that we just learned about in our fantasy writing unit and apply them to this research paper writing unit so that we can make this opening anecdote more exciting. We're going to be using figurative language, we're going to be showing character, and we're going to be showing setting. So, what I want to turn your attention to now is the 4-column outline that I've already made for my research paper and that you've already made for your research paper. Today specifically, we're going to be focusing on drafting the first column, which of course is the opening section. So let me zoom in on that. Now, within that first section, we're going to be focusing on the first box, which is the anecdote. Now, as you know, my topic is talking about whether or not players that are connected to steroids should be allowed in the Hall of Fame. So I decided to open up with an anecdote that talks about Mark McGwire's 60-second home run. So, without further ado, let me jump right into this and show you what I did for my opening anecdote. Mark McGwire stepped up to the plate and hit his 60-second home run of the season out of the park. He was the new home run champion. Despite the record, however, he isn't in the Hall of Fame. This is because he is an admitted steroid user. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry for that silence. I think I fell asleep for a moment because this was really boring. The issue with my writing here is that it doesn't include any of the exciting narrative techniques that we learned about previously in order to make this fun and entertaining for the reader. Sure, it does introduce the topic of steroids in baseball, but not in an engaging way, and an anecdote has to be engaging. So how do we do that? Well, we show character, we show setting, and we use figurative language. Watch what happens when I transform this using those techniques. Tens of thousands of cheering St. Louis Cardinals fans were on their feet. Countless camera bulbs flashed amongst the raucous crowd like a massive swarm of fireflies on a pitch-black night. Mark McGwire, the St. Louis Cardinals first baseman, America's hero, had just stepped into the batter's box. McGwire stared menacingly at the Chicago Cubs pitcher, who knew he was overmatched. His massive muscles shifting under his snug white jersey, McGuire gripped his 36-ounce bat effortlessly, like a child with a fly swatter. With the eyes of fans from around the world fixated on him, the Chicago Cubs pitcher delivered the pitch, low and outside, just where he wanted it. Location, however, didn't matter much to McGuire. He swung the bat with all his might and pulverized the small white ball. In less than 4 seconds, the ball sailed over the left field fence. The already crazed crowd was now in a frenzy as McGuire, his right arm held high in the air, trotted around the bases. Mark McGuire, with his 62nd home run of the 1998 baseball season, was the new home run king. He had launched himself into baseball immortality. Yet today, 14 years after that unforgettable day, Mark McGuire is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Why? Steroids. Now, as you can see, this second try is much different than the first try. It's much longer, and it is much more engaging as well. And it's actually not that hard to make it that much longer and that much more engaging. All I did was add those narrative techniques that I talked about in the mini lesson: figurative language, showing character, and showing setting. So I'm going to look at the first part of what I wrote and just highlight some of the things that I did to make it more engaging. Right off the bat, no pun intended, I started with showing the setting. Tens of thousands of cheering St. Louis Cardinals fans were on their feet. So now all of a sudden I really show what this setting looks like. Then right after that I continued to show the setting through the use of figurative language. Here's a simile: like a massive swarm of fireflies on a pitch black night. And then, soon after, I showed the character. McGuire stared menacingly at the Chicago Cubs pitcher. So as you can see, to make this anecdote more engaging and to make the anecdote more effective, I showed character, I showed setting, and I used figurative language. Now what I want you to do is look through the rest of my writing and write down 2 additional sentences where I use figurative language, show character, or show setting. Tomorrow in class, we'll discuss your findings during the Do Now, and then you'll begin actually drafting your anecdotes for your pieces. And the good thing is you'll get about 40 minutes to really just work on your anecdotes, to use all of the narrative techniques that we've discussed, and to make them not only topical, but also very engaging. If you have any questions at all, be sure to write them down and bring them with you to class tomorrow so we can discuss them right away. If you have a more pressing question, please feel free to email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and working with you on your anecdotes. Have a great night.